Another episode of Real Talk Mentality, The Crow 2024 review. I've watched the movie. I'm going to go back through the trailer again, but I'll give my honest opinion after actually watching the full movie. But first, we're going to go with the Red Band trailer.
What's the first thing you liked about me?
I thought that you were quite brilliantly broken.
You feel like my person.
You feel like my buzz.
What's the worst thing you've ever done?
I saw things. I shouldn't have seen any of it.
Shelly! Shelly! Please don't do this!
When someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that the soul cannot rest. Until you put the wrong things
This
right.
is all different. Whoa.
You were given the power of a god. But you're running out of time to save her.
That was the pinnacle moment in the movie. That really was.
I'm gonna kill them. Every single one of them.
And killed you?
Yeah, you did.
We have a problem. He came for us.
First impulse. Anger.
It's not anger. It's love.
Look at what you've become. You know that love promises only pain. You have no idea what hell awaits you. No, I do.
How many people have you loved?
I'll never be alone.
So if you've seen this movie, you know exactly where I'm coming from with this. Now I have to do the trailer every time. It's just the way that I do this, the style I do these videos in. Okay, I'm going to talk about, just to piss everyone off, I'm going to talk about the good first. I'm going to give you the veggies, so to speak. And then I'll get on to the dessert because I know everybody just wants me to rip on this movie. I'll talk about the good. For what it was doing its own thing with the story, it did it very well in its own unique style, trying to follow the story of The Crow, but more its own story of The Crow. It wasn't trying to be like the original. You know, it was trying to do its own thing with it, explaining how Shelly and Eric, how they met, how they fell in love, how they both had really bad drug addictions and met in rehab, and then Eric just became a part of Shelly's life and also essentially a part of her own drug addiction and her own mess. These people were hunting Shelly, you know, and then they had this bloke. You thought it was just maybe she, you know, at the start it wasn't. It was kind of hard to, you know, grasp what was going on. You know, like you kind of like, what the fuck is going on? And it took me a bit to sort of get it. What did Shelly witness, and why were these people going after her? Maybe they would just started killing her friends and stuff. You didn't really know until like more than halfway through the movie, and then it finally reveals to you that this bloke, there's supernatural elements to this, like more than just Shelley and Eric dying and then him coming back because his soul can't rest because of the crow and all the rest of it, right? The original was less supernatural elements, except for Eric and the crow was the only supernatural element about it. In this one, it did its own kind of unique thing, explained the rehab story, the drug addictions, how Shelley and Eric met, how they fell in love, and then how they escaped rehab, and then you know what the movie's about, right? And then you get into where Eric doesn't quite grasp the concept of what the fuck is going on. He doesn't understand. When he's in limbo with that old bloke, he's like, what the fuck is going on? What's he talking about? And then when you get into that, when you finally get into the action scene, it was very good. But the negatives though, the music, the soundtrack was trash, was absolute dog shit. You can never ever replace the original Crow. You can never replace Brandon Lee. I'll say it for the millionth time, not just to keep everyone happy, but also the fact that it is the truth. For what this was going for, its own unique thing. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If Brandon Lee's The Crow did not exist, and this movie came out being its own thing last year in 2024, this movie would have been classified as a fucking masterpiece. People would have loved it. The art style, the way they told the story, everything would have been its own unique thing. It's the fact that everyone always just wants to attach it to Brandon Lee's The Crow, right? City of Angels doesn't exist, but Brandon Lee's The Crow. If you look at this as its own thing, it is a really good movie, but fuck, it dragged at the start though. It fucking dragged. That rehab shit, I get it, they were trying to, develop the characters of Eric and Shelley more and tell how they met each other and stuff. In some parts, it felt a little rushed in the story, that why the fuck would it, you didn't know any of Eric's backstory. It was all just centered around Shelley. Why didn't Eric have any mates? Where was he living before he went to rehab? Or was his life that shit? He was literally living on the streets because the drugs got the better of him. And he decided to sort of cling to the first girl who we locked eyes with in rehab, sort of thing. There was absolutely no backstory to Eric. It was all Shelley. And then Eric just falls in love with her in rehab. They escape rehab together and then they get fucked up on drugs. And then Eric learns that, Shelley's what's going on with her. And then it was a bit weird because I'm like, hold on a second. What the fuck is with this demon bloke? And then you find out the thing that, you're thinking it's this real bad thing that Shelley witnessed, and then it goes to supernatural shit. And I was kind of like, what? I didn't want this to be like the original. I wanted this to sort of be its own thing, but at the same time, I did want the original parts in it, and it did, but it was kind of fucked because it just dragged at the start. It just really fucking dragged. And then you had Eric being a pussy, because when he came back, and no matter how many times he got shot, no matter how many times he got fucked up, no matter how many times he got stabbed, I'm thinking, and he literally watched himself heal, and the way that he pushed his freaking intestines back in, and the healing, look, I give that credit. The healing looked a lot more better with the updated CGI shit and everything that they did, or however they did it, with the computer editing side of it. The healing looked better because in the original it was just bang, he shot a hole in my hand. Woohoo! And then it just heals up. But the healing factor in this looked a lot better. Obviously, because it's updated. And with all the technology and computer editing shit and all the rest of it, I would have expected the healing to look a lot better than it just go like it did in the original. Anyway, it was just like, why was, even though Eric grasped the concept that he couldn't die because he was already dead, it's like, it took more than half of the movie, and when he was shot, and then when he was shot in the bathtub, and then he's like, I'm going to take it all serious now. But, I wasn't taking it serious. He had that offer on the table where him and Shelley could have come back, or they could have gone to heaven together, or whatever the fuck the deal was, But because he was fucking around, he had to swap that place with Shelley. She could go back, or she went to heaven, or whatever the fuck it was. It was a little bit confusing, and he went to hell instead of Shelley. I'm thinking, the demon wants their souls, and you got this whispering old cunt in your fucking ear, demon shit. And the fact that it took up more than half the movie to get into the action really fucking pissed me off too. Like, oh, he was shot in the bathtub, comes up from the water, and now he's taking everything seriously. You know, him and Shelley could have both gone to heaven together. Nah, he had to fuck around. He had to be a pussy. He's like, oh, no, well, I got stabbed. I'm already dead. And then he finally gets up with the shotgun. I'm like, about fucking time. About time you actually start grasping the concept of what the fuck is going on. About time you actually turn into the actual Crow and stop being a pussy cunt and fucking around with this. You know, at the start you had the offer, you and Shelley could have both gone to heaven. But now you fucked around, you were a bit of a dipshit with it, and now only Shelley can go to heaven and you're going to hell. Like, fucking idiot. That's what I'm thinking, you fucking idiot. And the fact that they didn't even do the flame thing. It's just him walking and the Crow's not even on his fucking shoulder. The Crow's just hovering above him. He didn't even do the light of flame thing. Like, I know I said that I wanted, like, you got to take some elements from the fucking original. Come on. You know, nothing will ever beat the original Crow in my opinion. My partner reckoned that this was better than the original. Fucking people who weren't brought up with the original are always going to say that though. Only because, like, younger people and people who weren't brought up with the Brandon Lee's, the original Crow, they're never going to truly appreciate that for the masterpiece it is. You know, me, I was brought up with it. That's why I say, nah, the original was better. But there was things that this Crow did do that was good. Like, I loved when they finally fucking got into the big fight scene and then he's, you know, shooting through himself and then he stabs the blade, the big katana through him. And that was cool. The fight scene was gory. It was awesome. I loved it, right? It had good blood, good gore, good splatter, good stabbing and punching and shooting and all that blood and all the rest of it. That was really good. But it fucking dragged at the start. And I just wanted to see him do some shit. And he didn't do nothing. And I'm like, you know, and it really just frustrated me. And the soundtrack, as I said, was dog shit. You know, you had the original soundtrack with, I think it's The Cure's Burn. You know, every night I burn, every night I dream the same. That, you cannot beat that. You fucking cannot beat that. You cannot beat the original Crow. And the soundtrack was shit. And even when he says you're all going to die, in the original Crow, like, in that ending fight scene was so fucking good. And then you had the people with their little rock rave, you know, down below and shit, and all the lights and everything. I'm thinking that was so much more better in the original Crow. It really was. Look, if this Crow was its own thing and the original didn't exist, this would be an awesome fucking movie. It would be. As a standalone, you take Brandon Lee and the original The Crow, never existed, was never made, and they came up with this Crow, The Crow 2024. This would have been, everyone would have made the biggest fucking deal out of this movie, was that this is fucking awesome. But the fact that it's attached to Brandon Lee's The Crow, it's what downgrades it. Also, the fact that at the start it fucking drags. It takes so long to get into the action. And then when the music, the soundtrack, it's like, what is this dog shit playing? The music was trash. The first fucking half of the movie was trash. Like, it had its own style, telling its own unique kind of story in a way. Like, not fully unique, but kind of unique. Giving more backstory to Eric and Shelley, all that. But still, look, the original Crow, Brandon Lee's, out of 10, 5 million out of 10. This out of 10, 5 or a 6? It was a 6. I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6. It wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst, but fuck, it dragged. Fucking dragged. And Eric being a pussy, it's like in the original Crow And it's always going to be compared to the original. Always. Because it is the fucking Crow. It's all right. They could have done so much better. Are they going to make a second one to this? Nah, not from the amount of backlash, not from the amount of Rotten Tomatoes and the reviews and everyone saying, nah, it was fucking shit. They did it. They did what they wanted to do. They redone the Crow. They knew everyone was going to shit on it. They're not going to touch it anymore, right? So if that makes anybody out feel happy, who was brought up with Brandon Lee's The Crow, if it makes anyone happy, they're not going to do anything with this. All right, they made the new modern The Crow. Everyone dog shitted on it. They're not going to do anything else with it. All right, they just wanted to remake. Just allow them to do their little remake. Allow them to get all the shit reviews. Allow them to get all this right, and then they're not going to touch it anymore. You know, they're not going to fucking put money into a franchise they killed. You know, you can go a couple of ways about this. You can be like me, where you appreciate Brandon Lee's The Crow, you will appreciate the original, you love the original, and nothing is better than the original, but you can still like aspects, you're still allowed to like aspects without people trying to shit on your opinions and tell you you're not allowed to have those opinions, because the original. There's more things that just fucking exist than the original. As I said in the first video about this, when I was reviewing the trailer of the movie, people need to learn the fucking difference between paying tribute to somebody and ripping them off and replacing them. There's a difference between doing a tribute and replacing someone. I do not think that this was a replacement. This was in tribute. But the fact that it did its own thing too was also, it was great. It was a good thing that did its own unique thing and explained more of the story of Shelley and Eric and the rehab, but fuck, it was boring at the start. And then when they finally start getting into a little bit of action, like, come on. And then you see the death. Look, the death of Eric and Shelley is dark, but at the same time, the original was way fucking better. Only because you had those flashbacks and you had the dark, Shelley was getting raped and, Eric was there getting fucking tortured, and then they chuck him out the freaking window of a multi-story building. They just chuck him out the window. That death was so much better than the shitty bags on the fucking head. And the way that Brandon Lee's The Crow came back too, and the way that you saw Shelley at the end, and she's in that white dress, and she's the angel coming to him, and he lies at her grave and waits for her. That's what the magic of the original Crow gave that this Crow didn't fucking care for. Didn't give a shit about that. Didn't capture any of that magic. You had Shelley that came, she put her hand on his head as if to say, I'm your angel, I'm taking you to the other side, your job's done. You avenged our deaths, you got all the pricks, you killed them, your soul can finally rest. And Shelley bringing him to the other side while he's laying on her grave, that was magic. That was, like, the first time you see that, it hits you like the fucking Titanic, you know what I mean? Everyone just immediately cried, and it's like the first time you watch James Cameron's The Titanic, and then the first time you watch Brandon Lee's The Crow, night and day difference of movies, but they gave you that emotional feeling. That's what made you fall in love with these movies. This Crow was just like, oh, okay. Well, he was a dickhead, and that's the reason why he's going to hell, and that's the reason why she's going to heaven, and they changed positions. Okay, nothing really fucking special about that. And then when you saw Shelley, it's like, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying this, but fuck, it was so woke. Oh, they're just doing this woke shit. Yep, of course, Shelley had to be some kind of ethnicity, right? Of course she had to be black. I don't have an issue with people. Don't go taking it there to that racist. I'm not a racist. I'm just saying. Of course, they had to fucking put a black person in there for fucking Shelley. The original stuff was fucking white and it made sense. I'm not being a racist. I'm just saying. Like, why did the fucking Little Mermaid have to be a black girl? Why do they do this for? It's not being racist. It's just saying, for fuck's sake, what are they going to do? Do a live action Frozen where Elsa is fucking black. Like, come on, stop with that shit. And there's a lot of people who agree with me who are not racist. It's just at the point of it. Why did Shelley have to be fucking black when the Crow, the original Brandon Lee Crow, made it so fucking... Like, if Shelley was black in the original Crow, it would have made sense, all right? It would have made sense. There's so many movies with black actors in the originals that if you turn them to a white actor, I would say the same fucking thing. If you look at all Kevin Hart's movies and you replaced Kevin Hart with a white actor now, and you did a remake of one of his movies, or if you did a Jackie Chan movie with a white American male, it's the same thing. It's my point. It's the same thing. You can't fucking replace the original actors and the ethnicity that they are, what race that they are, because it fucking works. And then when you start doing this woke bullshit, you ruin it. Did I like this Crow? Yes, I did. I enjoyed it. A 6 out of 10. I enjoyed it when it started getting into the good shit. Shelley did not hit the same. Also, where the fuck was that little girl? I'm pretty sure her name was Sarah. Where was the detective? Those were the things that made the original Crow special as well, was because you had this little girl who was so close to Eric and Shelley. Where the fuck was that? Nah, it's just a bunch of junkies who just decided to have junkie sex, break out of rehab, have junkie sex, and then Eric gets brought into Shelley's demon bullshit. Because this guy had a demon shoved up his ass saying, whisper some bullshit in some cunt's ear, and then suddenly, oh, they're demon people now. They kill other people, slice their throat. And then you got Eric sitting there making a big deal out of like, oh my God, I can't believe this junkie girl that I've literally just met has had a demon shoved up her ass and forced her to kill people. And it was videoed. Oh, shit. It's like, oh. I know it seems like I'm shitting on this movie, and I am. I'm majorly shitting on this movie. The fight and action scenes were really good. The gore, shooting with the shotgun, the samurai through the gut, through the stomach, through the, and then being shot through the freaking torso too to the other person behind you. That was awesome. The fight scene was really cool. The blood and gore, heads are rolling, limbs are getting chopped, cunts are dying, right? But fuck me dead. The soundtrack was trash and dragged. Anyway, this is just my honest opinion. It was alright. If the original Crow didn't exist, this would be a fucking awesome movie that just dragged too much at the start, but it would have been a fucking awesome movie, but I'm sorry. It did not hit the same. It hit us watching a decent movie that was attached to a fucking awesome movie. This was a decent movie. It was an alright movie attached to a legendary movie that could never be redone. You could never recapture the magic of the original Crow. Now, people are either going to fucking absolutely hate this Crow, they're going to hate the Crow 2024, or they're going to like it a little, or they're going to absolutely love it. If you weren't brought up with Brandon Lee's The Crow, then you're probably going to love this. If you were brought up with the original Crow, you're going to fucking hate it. Me, I love and hate it. The gore, the action, when it finally got into it, was fucking awesome. I love the story that they were telling. They got more into the Eric and Shelley stuff. But apart from it just being two junkies having sex that literally just met, and Shelley bringing Eric into her bullshit and had a demon shoved up her ass, like seriously. Nah, this just didn't do it for me. It just didn't fucking do it for me. I'm sorry. I gotta be like the oldies. I gotta be like I gotta be like everyone else. I just gotta say, what the fuck was this? It was alright. It was alright. It was a 6 out of 10. It was alright. It wasn't like complete dog shit or anything, but like the parts that were bad were total dog shit, and the parts that were good were really fucking awesome. That's just the way I see this movie. That's the way it works for me, is the parts that were good were really fucking good. The parts that just were dragged and were dog shit were fucking awful. But anyway, That's my original. So not original. I said that original too fucking much now. It's just automatic reaction. This is my full opinion on watching The Crow 2024. So there you go. Form your own opinions. Agree with me or disagree with me, or you're a bit in the middle. Everyone's open. It's an open discussion. You know, I'm not trying to force my opinions down everyone's throat. Everyone's got their own thoughts and opinions of it. But as always, thank you for watching this episode of Real Talk Mentality, The Crow 2024 review. And as always, if you're not watching it, it ain't worth shit. Take care, guys.